Day 12. Dad is on his way. I just told the story to a non-running video cam. Ha! And I got to the point where I'm like, well, how many minutes have I been talking? And I thought, I haven't even been recording. So here we go again. We'll see how it goes this time for you. Eric woke with a little bit of hope that next day after that hopeless look he had on life. And sometimes it is just a matter of going to bed and waking up. That sorrow lasts for the evening and joy comes in the morning. And so he woke up saying, "What's the plan today?" And I heard hope in that voice. And I said, "Well, Dad's coming." He drifted off to sleep and then he woke and said, "Oh, that was so exhausting." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Getting Dad from Arizona to get him to Hawaii." And I said, "Oh, that was a dream, Eric." And he's like, "Oh, it didn't hurt, but it was so much work." The nurse came in and she said, "Eric, have you moved today?" And he said, "Yep." And I said, "Oh, I think he was dreaming because he hasn't gotten out of bed and he really hasn't moved." And Eric looked discouraged and he said, "Oh, it's so easy to move in my dreams." Dad called and said he was 6.5 hours away. He was in LAX waiting for the flight to Hilo. And he said, "Linda, I had my own airport angel. You had Tony and I had Ann." He said 494 was closed completely on the way to the airport. And I looked up and I tried to Google and see why it was, and I asked Beanie and he didn't remember why. Jodine Helt had kindly offered to drive him to the hospital or to the airport, and now they were kind of rushed for time and trying to figure out and think, how can we get to the airport on time? We'll have to go around on a bridge and come on the St. Paul side, but the problem with that is everybody was going to be doing that. And so traffic's bad there. It seems like any time of day, but when it's closed, I can't imagine how congested that was. And Jodine got him to the airport and he was struggling at the wrong gate. And he said, a woman noticed, Anne noticed him struggling. And she offered to take him through employee security so that he could make his flight. And she gave him a bottle of water. She gave him the opportunity to make his flight and eased his panic. You know, she could have noticed and done nothing. Or she could have noticed and said, "It's not my place." And she maybe, a lot of times I think, we just don't notice. But Anne was there and she noticed and she did something. And maybe she wasn't supposed to do that. Maybe it wasn't legal or kosher, but she did something huge for us. She was God with skin on, again, providing for us in ways that we hadn't even anticipated. I'm hoping that you will notice. I'm hoping I will notice. And then I'm hoping that when I notice, that I will do something. Tony had come in or had called me that same day and said he would be willing to take me to the airport to meet Dad. My angel was going to come and take me to the airport when my husband arrived, and I hadn't even thought about how that was all going to work. God preparing Hilo ahead of me. And while we were waiting those 6 hours before I would leave for the airport, in walked living hope. Literally, 3 people walked in, 4 or 5 people walked in through Eric's hospital doors with hope. Father Samuel came and anointed Eric, gave him communion. And then Tony's pastor, Jack from Puna Covenant, came and prayed over Eric. And then a few elders from Christ Lutheran Church came and prayed powerful prayers. And there was a woman standing just leaning against the wall and waiting to say something. And I wondered if she was with who she was with. But she was Hope, standing right there. And her name was Sharon, and she introduced herself basically saying, I had rat lungworm disease. And she stood there and answered to Eric's question, will it get better? Does it get better? What if it doesn't get better? And she was there to say, it gets better. She looked strong and healthy, beautiful. And she stood at the foot of his bed and gave him real, living hope. Psalm 46, the first verse says that God is a real and present help in time of trouble. And when I think about that, it's like it has to be real, right? We need real help when we're in trouble. We don't need someone to say, I'll pray for you. We need something to happen that's real. And we need it to be present, meaning right now, right? Real and present help in time of trouble. That is a promise. And you can pray that and in confidence that he is a real, you can see him, taste and touch him, whatever the situation calls for, real, like in human being real. Help. In present help, meaning when I need the help, I need the help now. We needed hope to walk through the door, and it walked through the door. But it was real. It wasn't just a thought. It wasn't someone saying, I'm thinking positive thoughts for you. It was actually real. I end with the fact that Dad arrived. Dad did what dads do. He got a rental car, and he was looking on where we could stay, and he was just making Eric move his feet. Eric's extremities were pooling with fluid, and they were concerned about clotting and just all the things that go with edema and swelling and all the bad things, right, for your heart and your circulation. And he would just make Eric move his feet, and he would just be that kind of coach that was stern and confident and wouldn't take no for an answer. And when Hope walked through the door, part of it was Noel and Becky from Puna Covenant. They said, well, we have a house, and we have an extra house, and you could stay. And that was a gift to me. I had been sleeping on a 1-inch cot, and you don't sleep at the hospital, right? There's always bells and whistles and people, and I said yes, and I was able to sleep for 6 straight hours, and I don't know if I had done that since I really had left Kansas City. And it was good. And the sweet little story of staying overnight at Noel and Becky's was, Dad just got to take the duty, and I got to take a reprieve. And that was good for both of us. Dad needed to see exactly what his son was like, and I needed to rest. It was hard to be away, but Dad was assuring me he was doing press the morphine or the Toradol, whatever, every 10 minutes and not slipping, and making Eric move his feet and giving him hope, breathing some new life into him and me. And I woke and I wrote in my journal as I'm sitting in this beautiful tropical home, and And in the front, it's raining at the front window, and in the back, outside the back window, the sun is shining. And I wrote that in my journal, only I misspelled sun, and I wrote S-O-N. And then I thought, I didn't misspell it. The sun, Jesus, is always shining. And with rain in the front yard and sun in the back, I knew there was a rainbow somewhere. Today, I just want to pray hope. I pray hope walks through your door, and I pray that hope is a real and present in your circumstances. Pray Psalm 46. Read it at least. I don't know where your faith is. I don't know if you're losing faith or if you don't know that you've ever had faith. But going into the Psalms might be a source and say, where do I start? Psalm 46 is a good place to start. Psalm 46:10 says, be still and know that I am God. And I think sometimes just being still, not praying, not journaling, not really doing anything, but just being still. It's not easy, but you might find some answers. I want to pray for you again, as always, and my book grows in number of names that's in the book, that I pray for you every day. And I know that there's people that have joined me in that, because I just know some of you are doing that. And if you are doubting, if you don't know if God is real, and if you don't know Jesus is truly God, it's okay to question. It's good to question. We need to get to know what we know and know what we believe. But I'll pray for your doubts, and I'll pray for your questions, and maybe your anger to God, or maybe your apathy. If that's where you're at, I'll be praying. And tomorrow, I don't know, but we'll see you tomorrow.